Hello and welcome to the Daily Brown Bag. Today we're going to be talking about online privacy versus the freedom of information. I'm Chad Hill and I'm joined by Adam Stetzer.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chad. Welcome to the Brown Bag. This has been a hot topic for a number of years, Chad, as people have seen their online privacy dwindle, as they've learned that more and more the things you do on the internet stay on the internet and are fairly permanent. So we're reporting news today that's the battle between online privacy and freedom of information for individuals. And the news comes out of the European Union, where things are maybe a little more progressive in terms of protecting privacy. Specifically, there was this case against Google Spain that the European Union's Court of Justice has been listening to, and there have been appeals and whatnot, and it's finally come to resolution, and the decision is in favor of the individual and against Google Spain. And here are the specifics, Chad. I think this is interesting, and I want to discuss the implications. Basically, this individual had some old debt financial issues from the 1990s, and they were in Google, and I guess it was hurting his reputation and his business, even though the debts had long been settled and, through the court system and the legal system were considered done and over. They were still in Google, so they were harming his reputation and his ability to do business. So the decision that's coming out of the European courts today, again against Google Spain, is that people really do have the right to have things be forgotten. And the search engines, of course, up to this point, don't forget. So I think that's an interesting ruling. I'd be interested in your take on this.
Yeah, and I think to build on that, the specific language was that inadequate or irrelevant data must be removed from search results when someone requests it. So that's very interesting, and I think it does have some pretty serious implications. And I think the biggest implication, of course, would be for Google, Facebook, Twitter, anyone who is really surfing or collecting lots of information that's getting stored and archived. And so what that means, of course, is that if this case, which is a European case, first of all, if it stays over in Europe, there would obviously be a big cost for Google to be able to sort through these requests where people are asking information to be forgotten. And then, of course, in this particular case, this guy's information was resolved and should be removed. But what happens when that debt hadn't been paid? So now Google becomes the judge and jury of what gets to be what's in the search engine. So yeah, Adam, I think this is a real interesting one for them, and clearly has some serious business impact and issues. And of course, if that spreads from the EU over here to the US, an even bigger impact.
Right, and I think Google will obviously argue, well, this is going to hinder our ability to provide, more complete information for our searchers. We're just out there trying to provide excellent information to the world. But as you say, there has to be a sort of adjudication process when what they're representing may or may not be right. And so their argument to be sort of the best search engine for the world starts to make them sound pseudo-governmental. So I think there's a lot of places where Google starts to flirt with their rhetoric of sounding almost like a government agency, and it sounds pretty good, especially when they're taking the moral high ground and they're talking about it. We hear this, of course, on the SEO side all the time, do no evil and help provide great information for users. But when it comes down to what they're serving may not be factually accurate, I think the issue of accountability switches, the tables turn a little bit, and we're starting to wonder, well, who is Google accountable to? Because they are a for-profit corporation, and they're really only accountable to the shareholders. So I think this is an interesting case because it may set precedent where people start to really look at Google in a slightly different light. I don't know if that'll cross the Atlantic over here to the U.S., but it'll be very interesting to watch, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it again. Well, those are our thoughts today on the Google Spain case and the privacy case. We'd like your comments, and we hope you'll subscribe, so we'll see you back at a Brown Bag tomorrow.